Hello everyone and welcome to the program Business Point on Global Television. I am Samuel Odi. Many thanks for joining on today's edition of the program as we tend to extract angles of issues that was raised in the just concluded G20 summit that was held in Rio, Brazil, and then obviously was chaired by the president of Brazil. So its initiative, what was one of the major things that were discussed was about hunger, and the president of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, was there. For the past 4 years now, there have been global hunger and starvation as accompanied with poverty that has been ravaging the entire universe. So world leaders came together to create an initiative that would help counter that. But leaving the world out of the general the world out of this, let's look at what's actually going on right home here in Nigeria, how it's been enormous with the high cost of living and Nigerians not being able to have a 3 square meal per day given the current prices of food items in the market, inflation, and so many other factors that has led to that. So with all of this going on, the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu agreed and then shared as well with what the president of Brazil had to say, that is President Luiz. I just want to bring you updates of what he said at the G20 summit, the 19th G20 summit that was held in Brazil. Looking at that, at the 19th G20 Leaders Summit in Rio, Brazil, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu endorsed the creation of Global Alliance Against Hunger and Poverty, an initiative championed by Brazilian President Luiz da Silva. I think we need to go on a quick break. Then when we return back, I'll bring you up to speed with what President Bola Ahmed Tinubu actually said at his opening remarks. Do stay with us. We'll be right back. Yes, many thanks, and we sincerely apologize for that quick break, but everything is in order now. Talking about the just concluded summit, and then we'll be looking at hunger crisis and then ways to mitigate it. But this was what the president had to say. He says the creation of this alliance marks a significant milestone as a global effort to eradicate hunger and poverty. It also sends powerful message of solidarity to vulnerable population around the globe. Tinubu also compared the initiative to his administration's efforts to tackle poverty and hunger, aligning it with Nigeria's development agenda. He stated, by collaborating with international partners, Nigeria aims to leverage best practices, innovative solutions, and seek for financial support to enhance its efforts to combat poverty and hunger. Additionally, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu called for urgent reforms to the United Nations Security Council, advocating for the inclusion of Africa in the Council's permanent and non-permanent member categories. The Security Council should expand its permanent and non-permanent member category to reflect the world's diversity and peculiarity. Africa deserves priority in this process, and 2 permanent seats should be allocated to it with equal rights and responsibilities, he stated, reiterating Nigerians' readiness to serve as Africans' representatives. So, looking at this now, we have a series of challenges going on in this part of the world. Basically, Nigeria and Africa, this region is suffering of a whole lot of hunger and starvation, as well as poverty is on a rise. So looking at all of these challenges now, it has been said by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu he is adopting it and then championed by Brazilian President Silva Luis, who is helping out with all of these initiatives. So how can Nigerians now, benefit from this alliance, given the fact that, hunger is actually ravaging the land? I have someone who is joining me from Scotland, virtually, Mohammed Bello, who would help us, understand the benefits and, other key angles that the G1 leaders, G20 leaders rather, would be looking into, and how this initiative will come to light, and regulations, and then sustaining it for a very long period. Good morning, Mohammed Bello, for joining on to this edition of Business Points.
Yeah, thanks for having me this morning.
Thank you for joining us. So now let's get right into it. I'm very aware that you've been, following the G20 summit that actually was concluded yesterday in Rio, Brazil, and the initiative that was created by the Brazilian president, Luis da Silva. Let's just look at it and how Nigerians, focus more on how Nigerians will be able to benefit. How do you think the alliance would address Nigerians' specific challenges, such as insurgency, displacement, and climate change?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question, Samuel. If you look at the issue of hunger crisis, particularly when it comes to Nigeria, I think it's kind of very serious problem, because looking at the statistic, you see that about 133 million Nigerians are multidimensionally poor, and we have about 83 million people that are living below the real per capita expenditure of about 370 naira per day. And if you look at it, the average cost of healthy diet now in Nigeria is presently at about 1,255 naira per day. That's to say, an average Nigerian that is within this age bracket will have to spend 3 days, that's 3 days of his expenses if he can afford a nutritious and healthy diet. So this initiative, I think, is a very timely one, and I believe Nigerian government are going to key into this initiative, particularly as it aims to address issues that has to do with poverty, hunger, and I think the formation of the global alliance is aimed at, particularly raising funds to, ensure that issues that has to do with hunger and poverty are being addressed, at various countries, particularly at development countries that are at development level, most importantly countries like Nigeria and other countries that are just coming up. So this is a very nice initiative, but then it is not going to a caveat just to say it's not going to address Nigerian specific challenges. As we said, they are just going to facilitate or kind of complement the effort that the Nigerian government is making. Before this effort has been complemented, the Nigerian government itself has to stand up to its feet to address some of these challenges so far. So issues that has to do with insecurity, issues that has to do with climate change, I think one of the key factors that are contributing further towards these issues of hunger and food insecurity. So the Nigerian government have to stand up to its feet, work toward addressing these problems, and then they can key into some of these partnership platform that is being provided by the Global Alliance Against Hunger and Poverty initiative, so as to see the poverty rate, the hunger crisis is being reduced to a great level.
Looking at those angles now, basically, there's just been a lot going on, and this is not just hitting just Nigeria or Africa. It has been something that has hit the entire universe when COVID-19 struck, and then the entire world has been trying to find its feet, and the crisis going on between Russia and Ukraine is also not helping matters. Now we are looking at the Middle East also getting involved with all of this, and these regions are major distributors of grains that almost, let's say, 40% of the world consume. So it has been a serious challenge, and hunger is no longer new. It's not just in Nigeria but everywhere. Talking about Nigerian government and what they are doing, let's just look at let's focus more a little on what these initiatives will be able to, do for Nigeria. This initiative now, will the alliance implement to support Nigeria's economic recovery and growth? Looking at our dire economic situation, I'm very sure that you are aware of the current Nigerian inflation rate, which is at 33.88%, and then food inflation on its own, which is the key driver of the inflation, as said by a whole lot of analysts. Looking at those analysts now, food inflation itself is at 39%, right? So how can this initiative now support and help Nigerian economy revamp and grow?
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much for that question. I think this will bring us to the, objective as to why this initiative is being set up, to address hunger and poverty. And we have to look at the angles at which the pillars at which this initiative are being set up. This initiative basically, it is being set up to foster partnership, for instance, across international bodies and member countries. And then it's also aimed at advocating frameworks on food security across member countries. Also, they are looking at, establishing and coordinating financial resources in order to support these actions against poverty and hunger. But then Nigeria has to first position itself, for instance, before you even approach the, let's say, global alliance, you have to, okay, this is what we are working at. This is what we are doing against hunger and crisis. So you meet the global alliance maybe during one of its summit. Okay, this is the effort Nigeria has put so far, and we need support in these areas. For instance, maybe technical support, technical advice, and maybe knowledge even. For instance, Brazil has, been one of the successful countries, when it comes to hunger mitigation. Drawing from the experience of its Zero Hunger Strategy program. So there is a lot of knowledge and experience that Nigeria can draw from this kind of collaboration. So I believe these key fundamental pillars are very important when it comes to the global alliance against hunger and poverty. So Nigeria can key into this, when they are ready. When they are ready, yeah. So this initiative, as I said earlier, will not work toward addressing our problem on its own. We have to work toward addressing our own problem. And this will bring us to the question about how far Nigerian government are doing when it comes to issues around addressing this poverty and hunger. So for instance, I'm aware that they have restated their commitment, for resolving hunger, reducing hunger, and all through, for instance, the Renew Hope National Homegrown School Feeding Program. But then the question is, we are in this November now, right? We just have less than a month to the end of 2024. So, but then the issue still is, how far has this program gone and what is the progress? It's not just by saying, okay, we are committed to doing this, we are committed to doing this. What are the results? We have to see the result, right? So, and this kind of initiative are only interested in the result that you people are, the result of your actions. They are not just interested on, okay, you saying we are going to do this, we are going to do this. They have to see how far you've gone before they can even, pledge any support or commitment. And I think they can also greatly benefit from funds also. For instance, I think during the establishment of the initiative, the Global Agriculture and Food Security Program has pledged, to invest more than about $180 million towards this cause of addressing food insecurity and hunger. So you can see there is a lot for Nigeria to benefit. There is a lot for Nigeria to benefit in terms of technical expertise, in terms of resources, in terms of knowledge, and in terms of even country level, policy formulation. So, but then we just have to position ourselves very well. The government has to position itself very well to see how they can tap and key into these resources and initiative.
Thank you. like you rightly mentioned about the readiness and the renewed hope agenda, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in his remark and when he was, endorsing the statement and the initiative that was created by the Brazilian president. So he said is in line with his renewed hope agenda, and how to sustain and develop Nigerian growth. Looking at those angles now, how ready do you think Nigerians are to be able to be part, and then how will the alliance engage with Nigerian stakeholders, including government, civil society, and private sectors, to be able to champion this initiative to see Nigerians, enjoy the basic amenities of life?
Okay. Yeah, I think these are two different questions, and I will start by addressing the one you said, how ready Nigerian is. So, well, if you ask me this question, I will respond honestly by saying we are ready on paper. We have the policies on paper, we have all the, plans, I think, on paper, but then we are not really committed toward, achieving these policies, for instance. He made mention of the Renew Hope agenda and all, the National Homegrown School Feeding Program, and I think also the issue of National Social Register to identify and support vulnerable households. But what I'm saying right now is this: we are in November now, and this administration has lasted over 1 year. So, and as I said, what are the progress so far? As regards to this program, these are the programs that we understand that these are the programs that are aimed at addressing poverty and supporting the vulnerables, right? So, but what are the progress so far? What are the milestones that have been achieved? Have they even started is the question. I'm not aware if they have started the Renew Hope National School program feeding, because as of the last time I checked, nothing like that has started. And then even the National Social Register that is aimed at identifying and supporting vulnerable households. The last time I heard something about the National Social Register is when they gulp about 3.2 billion naira just to expand the social register. And even with that, it has not yet materialized into anything so far. So I will use the word of the Albanian Prime Minister that he said in the COP29 that our speeches and plans are very good, and they're full of what, in paper, but then the change is nothing. We just have to progress from these paper policies that we have into actions. And talking about the other questions, where you said how will the alliance promote? Do you say, sorry, can you just let me get the second question clear?
How will how will it promote stakeholders and civil government agencies and civil society groups to help aid and then see to the realization of these Nigerians benefiting from this alliance that has been created by the G world leaders?
Okay. Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, this is a very great platform for any serious government to tap in, and there are a lot of information, there are a lot of knowledge, experience, and resources to draw from this initiative. So I believe this initiative would kind of provide a platform through which Nigerian stakeholders, including the government, can leverage to address issues that has to do with hunger and poverty, for instance, through through structured dialogues, consultation, and even partnership. For instance, I mentioned of the Brazil experience. Now Nigeria is, part of this initiative, right? They can tap into the Brazil experience. Okay, go and meet Brazil. How were you people able to, address this hunger issue? Tell us about the zero hunger strategy. How were you people, able to achieve milestones with this hunger strategy? So, and another area through which they can be able to benefit is maybe through direct relation with masses. For instance, when it comes, that's speaking about the Global Alliance, initiative, they can kind of provide, capacity building to the masses, trying to enhance agricultural practices. For instance, since we are talking about global hunger and poverty, so, and you cannot talk about this without talking about agriculture. So since they have a kind of broad experience when it comes to sustainable agriculture, and sustainable agricultural practices. So they can engage the masses directly. The Nigerian government can liaise with these partners that form part of the global initiative to see, okay, how can you guys contribute toward developing the human capacity of Nigerians when it comes to issue that has to do with sustainable agriculture.
I agree with you. Well, I know you agree with me that there is no how we can have. Well, I'm sure you can agree with me that there's no how we can have this conversation without drawing the IMF, the World Bank, and United Nations into this conversation, since it's talking about global hunger and poverty. So how can these international organizations now play a role in supporting this alliance that has just been, created? As we wrap up, we have barely like 5 minutes to end today's program. So in 2 minutes, please give us a quick response to this question, how United Nations, World Bank, and IMF would play a very quick role in terms of supporting the alliance.
Well, I think multilateral organizations always have a role to play in this kind of alliance, because, when you talk about hunger, poverty, unemployment and all, multilateral organizations are expert at it, when you speak about the United Nations, World Bank, and IMF. So I think they have a very great role to play in supporting this alliance when it comes to providing technical expertise, for instance, and policy support development, right? And then they can also collaborate with this alliance. When you talk about funds, you are talking about the IMF. When you talk about funds, you are talking about the World Bank. So they can collaborate and mobilize resources and funding, right, to support the cost of these programs. They can also provide essential data, like say, okay, what are the data points, for all the member countries? What is the state of poverty in these countries? These data will be very essential toward making informed decisions, in these member countries. And towards this effective collaboration, I think mobilizing funds, providing data, and providing technical support, these are the ways through which I think the multilateral organizations will play towards supporting this alliance.
Right. Thank you so much, Mohamed Bello, for taking our time to join us on today's edition of Business Point. We sincerely appreciate all of your input on today's edition. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, that's how much time will permit us to take. Mohamed Bello is an economist, and he also majors more around Nigerian economy and also other related business issues that transpire around the world. And looking at these angles now, and the fact that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu says this new alliance, global alliance against poverty and hunger, is part of the renewed hope agenda. Nigerians now are holding the president to his words and saying, we're hoping to see that this partnership with these international communities is going to help aid and then cushion the high cost of living that Nigerians have been facing since he assumed office over a year ago. The cost of things, transportation, food items have gone up. But with all of these initiatives, we're hoping, and Nigerians are hoping, to see that a whole lot of changes, positive changes, would happen, and Nigerians would, rejoice and enjoy the dividends of having President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the president. My name is Samuel Odi, and this is how much time will permit us to take on today's edition of Business Point. I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye for now.